Such a self-indulgent answer. My question is to the Minister for Human Services. Minister, in the last sitting of Parliament, you tabled a report about the Ashley Youth Detention Centre. Do you remember that report? Just checking. This report outlined a range of deeply concerning issues at the centre, and some of the most politically damaging content was blacked out. When asked by the media the next day who was responsible for these redactions, you denied any responsibility. In the Westminster system, Minister, you are responsible. Were you telling the truth, Minister, or will you now confirm it was your office that directed the independent custodial inspector to redact a damning report into Ashley?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister for Human Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for her question. And again, like the last question I answered, I'm proud to say that it was the Hodgman Liberal government that established the custodial inspector as an independent statutory officer with responsibilities including regular inspections and reporting to ensure that our facilities are meeting relevant standards, so we can ensure that our facilities and management and reforms are on track and are continuously improving, Madam Speaker. You're right in the member who raised the question is correct. In the last sitting of Parliament, I did table the report of the custodial inspector in this place. I tabled the report as it was provided to me by the Office of the Custodial Inspector. Prior to that, I had been provided with a briefing and a copy of an unredacted report.
What happened?
The redactions in the report were the redactions provided by the Custodial Inspector, Madam Speaker. Now, Madam Speaker, and I understand that there have been considerable reporting and interest and fascination with these redactions, and as anyone who has looked into them and read the reports on them will note, in those cases, the material that was publicised around the redacted sections, in most regards, goes to matters of security, technical matters around the way that the Ashley Youth Detention Centre is configured and the purpose
point of order,
as
Dr. Wood. I'm hoping to save the Minister from himself, perversely. Minister, the question is, I just listened very carefully, but the question is, did your office ask the custodial inspector to redact that report?
That's not a point of order, but I've heard the question. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I am advised that the redactions in the report were made by the custodial inspector in consultation with the Department of Communities Tasmania.
Right.
Your office?
Not your office.
But did your office direct the redactions?
Madam Speaker, I've given my answer to that question.
No. And
I want to be very clear.
Order. Could I have some order here, please?
And I want to be very clear that anybody who has viewed the matters that were in the redacted sections of the report, and I do caution those who are publicising those further, will see that they are more to do with the security of the facility, the people who work in it and the people who are detained in it, than they are about any aspects of government policy, Madam Speaker. What they will also note, if they've actually read the report, is that of the 38 recommendations, all but four have been supported. And because the report was based on an inspection that occurred in February 2018, by the time of the tabling of the report, the vast majority of those recommended actions were underway.
Sorry, I have another point of order, Minister.
With the greatest of respect to you, and I do apologise, Madam Speaker, but it's very important we get to the truth. Minister, did your office direct that report be redacted? No, it hasn't been answered. Listen.
No. Yes, it's not a point of order. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have answered that question.
No.
And what I find deeply distasteful and I think irresponsible is the characterisation, again, in particular by the Greens, of what this report is and what it isn't. It's in particular, we had Dr Woodruff from the Greens coming out first straight out of the blocks and saying this is shocking and scandalous and drawing connections with shades of Dondale in Tasmania, Madam Speaker, and saying how vital it is that the government acts with urgency and spreading fear and characterising this as a situation akin to that covered in the ABC Four Corners reports on the Dondale facility in the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker. Now, out there, there are parents and families of young people on remand and who are detainees in the Ashley facility, Madam Speaker. And when they hear in the media those comments from someone who's had access to this report and its detail,
you don't even security check contractors,
and the recommendations in it, including those that were redacted, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
and to characterise this report.
They're in the Westminster system, Madam Speaker. The question was really simple. It was, did Minister Yench's office direct the independent custodial inspector to redact that report? You haven't answered it. You know you haven't answered it.
Okay, that is not a point of order, and we're now getting to a few frivolous ones because you know the limitations of that standing order. Please proceed, Minister.
Madam Speaker, and to those concerned citizens out there who are genuinely interested in the welfare and the well-being of the young people in the Ashley Youth Detention Centre, which we are changing from being a prison-like environment to a therapeutic environment, Madam Speaker, and we have a plan. We're investing $7.3 million into a therapeutic redesign of that facility, and members here who follow the news will note that even just this last weekend we have advertised for a project manager for that job, for an architect to finalise the design parameters, and we expect the construction will commence in 2020. Madam Speaker, and what I want to do is also, in terms of the overall findings and outcomes of the report, I need to put into the record the custodial inspector's own comments on the issue. Madam Speaker, the custodial inspector, Mr Richard Connick, said in his media release on the release of the report that the treatment of young people at Ashley Youth Detention Centre is satisfactory, as are the conditions and facilities of the detention centre. The management of and interactions with young people by Ashley Youth Detention Centre staff was observed at inspection to be positive and conducted with respect and politeness. Cleanliness is kept to a high standard and facilities are well maintained, he said. Ashley Youth Detention Centre's daily routine also places high importance on education and programs tailored to each individual, addressing rehabilitation and development skills and also providing life skills. Notably, lockdowns for extended periods are rare in the facility, he stated. The report contained 38 recommendations for the Department of Communities Tasmania to address. Madam Speaker, only 4 of those have not been directly supported. The custodial inspector's findings and those comments in particular reflect that we are turning Ashley Youth Detention Centre into a child-centred therapeutic facility. We have a plan for the Ashley Youth Detention Centre. We are investing $7.3 million. We do care about the kids that are in care there. We're making it less like a prison, more like a facility that can return them to productive lives, Madam Speaker, and we're getting on with it.
Okay.